Hello everybody and welcome to episode 7 and the last episode for 2019 of Your Wildlife Images Reviewed. In this episode, Mike and I look at some images sent through by Nick Wade from his trip to the Masai Mara where he stayed at the Masai Mara camp last year. Let's have a look. Without further ado, let's get into it. Here's Mike and myself reviewing Nick's images. Hi Nick, thank you so much for sending your images through. Really appreciate it. For this episode, I've got Mike along,
Hey, Nick.
and we're going to have a look at some of the images that you took from last year, if I'm not mistaken, where you were in the Masai Mara at our Masai Mara camp. So let's get straight into it and have a look at the images. All right, so first image.
Beautiful. Lioness on a mound, and it's quite a iconic scene of the Masai Mara. Early morning, you can see that sun's still very low. There's dark shadows on the side of the mound with the sun coming in from the back. These girls obviously utilizing some nice sunlight early in a chilly Mara morning, and I think it's quite well captured.
Yeah.
Because situations like this are quite difficult to photograph because of those deep dark shadows. So you can see that rimlet on those lionesses, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think he's worked the image really well to lift those shadows in the foreground.
Yeah.
And by the looks of things, he didn't overdo it.
Yeah.
So there's enough detail. But to an untrained eye, you won't really see that it's been worked a lot to lift it.
Maybe have a look just to try and see. I kind of find like looking at this image, this has sort of become a little bit distracting. So let's just see. Oopsie.
Definitely.
Something to that effect, maybe.
Yeah.
A bit more.
Slightly tighter crop.
A tighter crop.
Would do the trick, for sure.
I know this doesn't appear that sharp on here, but it's this is obviously a JPEG image and stuff. So
that was sent through.
That was sent through. So the overall, we're not going to look into much detail the sharpness close up, but the overall image I think is pretty well captured.
Definitely, yeah. For the circumstances, it's not an easy scene to photograph.
Yeah.
When your subject that you're shooting is in that dark shade or shadow, it is very tough to execute. And I think, Nick, you did a great job here. You've retained good detail in the cat lying down's face.
Yeah.
And the rest of her body. You still see that rimlet over her ears and her sister behind her.
Yeah.
It's a very cool scene, and you can immediately tell that this is a early morning in the Masai Mara, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
What you can often do in these, especially in the backlit images, I don't know if you often do it, but maybe just to drop the blacks down a bit more, just make this so it's not so orange. But just to try and, what you want to try and do is sort of darken up a little bit, and then you can maybe even lift those highlights a bit, because that's
to pop that
to pop that rim light, because that's such a cool effect.
Exactly.
It's something that you can look at when you're shooting into the sun like that.
Yeah, definitely. And if you, just while we're on this topic of shooting into the sun or shooting for rimlet stuff like this, a thing I like to look at a lot, particularly when shooting scenes like this, is I look at the scene, judge how dark it is, take the image, but then keep my eye on the histogram, because obviously far left are your pure blacks, far right is your pure whites. And what I try and do when I shoot scenes like this is I intentionally shoot very dark in the field, in order to keep that rimlet the main feature of what I'm trying to capture. But I keep an eye on my histogram on the far left and ensure that it doesn't touch the very top, because along this tonal range from pure blacks to pure whites, this level on the left is basically how much of the shadows or the blacks you have in the image. So be sure that you're not touching the top of your histogram, because then you're burning blacks. It means you've lost detail. So really push that limit when you're shooting things like this, because if you don't burn the black up on here, you can still retain a lot of detail and lift shadows if you need to. But I think that crop really made a big difference to this image. Yeah.
Perfect. Let's have a look at the next one.
Cool. Similar scene.
Yeah.
Also side lit. kind of side backlit.
Yeah, I really like the look and feel of this. I think the only problem is because this lioness here is going down, she's not actually against that bright light. So
no, she's kind of fading into that shadow part.
Yeah. So often when you have like an animal against a dark background like this, it doesn't pop out as much. Let's just see, maybe if we lift some of those whites up a little bit, and maybe just these shadows. See how in this area here you're starting to get
pops up. Yeah.
getting a bit more detail over there.
Exactly.
Maybe even try let's see if we lift exposure up a little bit.
Yes.
So now you can actually see the shape of the animal.
Exactly.
Even though there's no detail in the face, you can see what it is. So that's pretty cool.
Definitely, yeah. Lifting this foreground slightly, just to enhance that. But then another thing that, because we've obviously lifted exposure, whites and shadows, it's affected that sky quite a bit. So maybe if we go into a special adjustment or a filter, I'm just going to pull this down like that. And I'm going to go into range mask and select color, because then in here we can go select which colors you want this filter to use. So let's go and get majority of the sky. Okay, it's selected that for us now. And that's the overlay, yeah. That's cool. And now let's go and drop that exposure slightly there again, just to retain that sky. Maybe increase the A slightly. Clarity. Yeah, and then we just bring that sky back a little bit, so that it doesn't affect the foreground, it's just affecting that sky. You keep that nice and moody. But this is a very well executed image as well. But yeah,
I love those little highlights in the, what are these flies?
Flies, yeah.
I thought it was grass to start off with, but it's obviously can't go any closer. But that looks like there's little flies in there. It's pretty cool.
It is a very cool shot, yeah.
Maybe a little bit pink. Let's bring it back a little bit here, maybe. Bring it down slightly, just a fraction.
It looks like magenta is the main color here. So
yeah,
maybe if we drop temperature and set or in vibrance again, and let's go into specific colors. Yeah, we can just drop that magenta a little, and the purple maybe.
Not doing much.
And the reason why it'll struggle right now is because it's a JPEG image.
Yeah.
So Nick, on your raw file, you'll be able to make finer adjustments to that color. But yes, it does seem, the color just seems a little unnatural.
Yeah.
That pinky, maroony, purpley kind of color. But like that original was quite nice.
Yeah.
But once we had lifted that foreground, a lot of those purples are coming in.
Yeah.
So yeah, just maybe check on your raw file. Maybe you can still keep it that nice, dark, rich, warm, red-orange color, but still lift that foreground slightly by using exposure and shadows. But yeah, great image.
Otherwise, well captured. Tails up.
Both are flicking, which is really
cool. Love the postures and things. So very cool image, Nick. Well done. Another one, something similar.
Silhouette, yes. Our silhouettes are always nice and fun.
Yeah.
And quite a simple scene to shoot, but obviously a big thing when it comes to silhouette is the animal has to play its role 100%.
Yeah.
And in this scene, you can see clearly that these are zebra, and they're walking away from Nick or from the vehicle.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that would enhance the look of this image is if you could get a bit of a lower angle. Obviously, it's not always possible, but either the animal walks onto higher ground or you can move into a lower position. Because as you'll see on the zebra on the left over here, this guy has a nice break between the horizon and the sky, so you can see its legs.
Yeah.
Whereas with this one, for example, this is actually a perfect example to chat about this, has no break. So it's just basically a blob with a head that looks like a zebra's head, and that'll be the giveaway. So to enhance a look of a silhouette image, try and look for subjects that are standing in an area where you see a full break between the belly and the foreground, so that you can see exactly what this animal's, or like you see the whole animal.
Yeah. And I think also, I mean, if you have a look, I mean, just to use the grass as an example, if you have a look at the grass here compared to the grass on this side, you see how this almost stands out a lot more.
Definitely.
So what you kind of want to do is you want to shoot against that brighter part of the sky. I mean, obviously, if you have those colors and things with the sunset, then that's even better. But if you go against dark clouds and stuff like this, it doesn't sort of stand out as much.
Yeah, that contrast starts to blend in.
Yeah,
definitely. Yes.
So
and then maybe also just a full-on side profile of the animal. Wait for moments like that, but it's not always possible. But then, in terms of what you were trying to achieve and what you did achieve in this image, I think you executed it. Technically, you executed it very well. Yeah. Because the zebra are pitch black in the foreground, and in underexposing so much, you retain color and detail in the sky behind them, which is great. Yeah.
I think apart from those couple of things, I mean, and that's all. That's the beauty of photographing wildlife. Waiting for them to do something in particular that you've been waiting for. Like Mike says, it doesn't happen often, or doesn't happen always. But it's something just to keep in mind that when it happens, even for a split second, that you're ready for that moment.
Yeah, go for it and capture it. I'm not too sure what DAs will do, particularly on the raw file. But I very seldom use the DA slider. But when it comes to silhouette stuff like this and moody, cloudy skies like Nick had captured here, you often get great results when you work DAs. Obviously, you don't be too heavy-handed. But just to punch that sky in the because the foreground's usually got a silhouette shot pitch black. So your DA slider is not going to affect that. And it's just going to go tackle that sky. And often, using that, just punches that sky ever so slightly, I think that'll enhance it a bit more. Awesome. But technically very well executed here, Nick. Well done.
Nice.
Beautiful. Simple portrait, less is more. And this is telling your viewer exactly what this animal is. There's no beating around the bush, there's no distractions. It's just straight on zebra, which is really beautiful. It's a pretty image. But would you agree, I'd maybe say highlights are slightly...
Maybe
they're popping slightly, so maybe if we drop highlights...
And you can have a look here. Well. Bring those highlights down just a touch. Maybe even lift these shadows.
Shadows a bit, Yeah, you can see that its left-hand side is popping
there.
That's
the
beautiful.
Difference. And maybe, again, all depends on the animal behavior, but maybe if the head was just lifted up a little bit, the head is almost sort of dropped down, it's like almost a bit droopy.
Exactly,
and with them sort of lifting its head up, you get more of the eyes as well, which is, I mean, with wildlife...
focused look. But the great thing that Nick had waited for and captured here is you can see he's got both eyes here. You can see both eyes, and both ears are hitting forward.
Yes.
So it is kind of saying this animal is giving its attention to the photographer, which is great. But as Johan had mentioned, if that head was lifted up a bit, it would have been a little bit more appealing. But again, this just comes down to the animals. If the animals aren't playing along, then you're going to struggle. I've had days where animals don't play along. And it does get frustrating.
Otherwise, great solid portrait.
For sure.
Very nice.
Definitely. Oh, power.
Oh, migration.
How cool.
Something that's, it might sound contradicting, but it's hard to photograph, but it's also not hard to photograph. I mean, you can...
Exactly.
Like, to capture a scene like this, you can almost just pick up any camera and shoot because
spray and pray kind of method.
Because the animals do the work for you almost. But love the feeling of... what I enjoy about it is you've got the three stages of a crossing. So you've got these guys waiting to build up. You've got these guys entering with the dust, and then the guys swimming in the water. But quite often, I don't know if you find it the same as well. Often people, when they see the crossing for the first time, they pick up the biggest lens, zoom in as close as possible.
Yeah, shoot photograph on wildebeest.
And you don't actually end up telling much of a story, whereas I think the story in this is captured beautifully.
Exactly, and the dust here is just so cool. It just adds to the chaos and the mayhem of a Mara River crossing. And one thing I also really love about the scene, and it's very subtle in it, is that your majority of the animal in here would be wildebeest. And then you have 3 zebra. And that bit of light falling down this tunnel on those 3 zebra is just awesome. That's absolutely incredible. But one thing here, you can see the dust is, I would say, a little bright. And we spoke about DAs in one of the previous images. This is where I like to use DAs, because what DAs is, it basically looks for stray light in hazy, dusty, misty situations. So this will be a hazy area. And notice your whole image by using DAs is going to get pretty burnt because it's looking for contrast. But keep a close eye on what happens to the dusty area when I increase DAs. You see that? You just get a little bit more detail in that dusty area. So one thing that could work is, because we obviously don't want to affect this whole image by de-azing, if we could use this radial filter, I would say pull it around this main area where all this dust action's happening. And then with this, let's hit O, get the overlay on. Invert will take the settings that you want to apply into the middle of, or the interior of the circle. Let's hit O, get rid of it, the feather looks healthy, and then just in this area, maybe de-aze it a little bit. And that just,
so it stands out.
Yeah, pops that area a little bit more, makes the shadows deeper, the highlights pop out of those shadows. I would say maybe do something like that just to enhance that dusty, moody scene. Because I mean, this particular crossing, it's cool with them crossing, and there's the animals building up, but that dust to me makes this image, which is great. And vehicle positioning here was also awesome, because you sometimes see other vehicles on the opposite bank, but in this scene it's a pure, clean, natural crossing scene, which is pretty cool.
Super stuff, man.
Yeah, great image. And then maybe lastly, if we just come and paint these guys, because it is quite dark, maybe up shadows slightly, just to enhance that ever so slightly. But other than that, there's
great image.
Nothing too wrong with this image.
No.
It's a really cool. And before we go across, let's say down here, and let's see the aperture of f8. That's ideal. You'd get more than enough depth of field there to retain detail in a large part of this frame. So it's a great image.
Nice
Good stuff, Nick. And yet another.
Also different angle.
Very different.
I think for me, like, so this is the problem you face when you go in a little bit closer with these kind of crossings. You start chopping off animals here. So I love this part here for me, but then like these guys here become a little bit distracting, and I don't think you can eliminate it by cropping. It'll be very tough.
It will be tough.
You're always going to have something chopped off. But that's why maybe zooming out a little bit more is the way to go.
Exactly.
See these guys.
You were zooming out, but also if you go into the crop ratio again, please, and take it back to the original quickly. Okay, so if you look at the scene, so technically well captured image, but all of your actions kind of happening here at this entry point, and they're running, crossing to the right in that direction. So nothing is wrong or right here when it comes to rules of composition, but there are things that we can use to obviously improve the look of an image and enhance the look of an image. So what I would say here, most of your viewers are going to go straight to that area where that dust and that mayhem is, and then follow this down into the river moving right. So next time you're in a scene like this and shooting this, I would recommend leaving that whole third out of the frame. Because there are zebra there, they're coming in to drink, but it's not very action-packed.
Not really adding.
If there was a clock like ripping that zebra in, then yes, it would be great to have it there. But because all the action is from the center to the right of this frame, maybe next time move your camera right a little bit so that you get this action in your top left corner and more of those wildebeest and zebra crossing in. So if I had to have recropped this image, I'd probably do something like that. Because now you have that flow and you get a line leading through your image. But technically, again, very well captured image. just that dust. I will go and enhance a bit with that. D8. What did you say? Huh?
Yeah, it's just to make it pop out a bit.
Perfect. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, make it stand
Such
out
a slight difference, but look how that. So you still have that dust in there, but you have a lot more rich and dark, moody shadows. It's this is an epic scene.
And I would, my advice is always, if you're shooting a crossing like this, rather shoot out wide. You can always crop in afterwards. But
exactly.
if you're going too close, unless it's, if you have croc action happening somewhere around here, then you want to go nice and close, or if you're getting individuals jumping,
leaping,
then maybe go tight. But for me, this is where it's at.
Moving scenes and mass animals moving through. Definitely shoot wider. 100 to 400 pull back, or 70 to 200 pull back.
Very cool.
But this is a great image, and it tells a perfect story of a Mara River crossing.
Yeah.
Mayhem coming in, dusty, and then chaos in the water. Those big splashes where those wildebeest were jumping in.
Magic,
absolutely incredible. And again, for what the scene was, just by looking at this is an extremely challenging shoot. Reason being is because the angle from where the sun's coming, the entry point is very, very dark. And that's why you have to kind of overcompensate. And you'll see that highlights in the water are a little bit brighter than what they should be.
Yeah.
But because of what that scene was, there was no way really around that.
No.
That's basically what you're going to get. But great image, Nick. This is a cool story.
All right.
Yes, cute little lion cubs. Yes, I love the cubs in the Mara.
Yeah,
there's always so many of these little critters.
Detain us a lot.
That's beautiful.
Maybe the highlights on the faces,
slightly bright,
especially sort of on the chest here. So you can maybe do an overall drop down. I mean, just
by doing that,
just that it's changed quite a bit. And then I don't know, the colours also feels a bit.
It seems a bit cool on the grass in a blue sense, but again, you can see this is probably early morning.
Yeah.
And the color of the light, but then also the long dark shadows. And you'll often find what your camera will do, Nick, in situations like this is because there's not a hell of a lot of light around for it to process and create an image for you. It often looks for what I refer to as stray light. So in a scene like this, there's a lot of greenery behind those lion cubs. There's a lot of dark wooded vegetation. That soil in the gaps in and around all this grass on this mound will reflect either a blue or a purple color. And this is maybe the reason why it comes across as being a funny kind of color cast.
It's got like a purple tint.
It's because it's looking for stray light in order to gather enough to create something. So Johan dropped orange a bit on those lion there, which did the trick. It dampened that saturation a little bit. Maybe if you even drop vibrance slightly. And I often find when it comes to low light shooting situations, I like to use my tint slider because obviously this will make it either a lot more green or a lot more purple. So in scenes like this where things do turn out to be a little bit blue or purple, I will just go drop my tint by maybe -5 depending on the scene. But already here, this has dropped that blueness in that mound quite dramatically to, look at that.
Big difference.
Yeah. So just bear in mind, and this is the great advantage of shooting in RAW.
Yeah.
Because if you shoot a JPEG image,
your
tints and your white balance, if you've got a pink line, you're gonna have a pink line for always.
Yeah.
So this is a good example of low light shooting and when to use tint. A lot of the time, guests would ask, "What's this tint slider?" So in the opposite effect here is if a lion cub is sitting in, say for example, he was sitting in those bushes, and you could get nice and close to him. In low light situations, you'll often find your lion appearing greener than he should be, and that's when you start pulling your tint slider towards the purple side, and it gets rid of that strange green cast on your lion's face. But great image. I like the symmetry of them lying. I love that you had shot portraits because that story is from top to bottom.
Yeah.
I think this is a great image. Really cool.
Nice.
Well done.
Nice. Very well done, Nick. Awesome. Another silhouette.
There you go. Nick, you enjoy your silhouette photography, as do I. It's a fun way of capturing very moody and dramatic scenes.
Yeah.
But again, I think what would have been ideal here is just a break in the belly there, like a break between the animal's stomach and the horizon.
Yeah.
We chatted about this in the previous zebra silhouette, but right now it's like, we can see exactly that this is a herd of wildebeest standing here. There's multiple animals.
Yeah.
You can see their horns, their ears are facing forward, they're all looking at you. So you cannot make that mistake and say that that's a zebra standing there.
No, sure.
It's definitely a wildebeest.
Yeah.
And technically, again, you've executed this beautifully because you have a pure silhouette, no detail in the foreground, a beautiful orange sunset moody sky behind them.
Yeah.
The only thing that would have enhanced that look is a break in the belly.
Yeah.
And I remember you were saying you had that dark and bright background.
Yeah.
You can see this here again if you look at this wildebeest on the left.
Beautiful.
Absolutely stunning because of that very bright sky behind them. But over here with this vegetation creeping in from the right, these wildebeest start fading away. Now there's just a few blobs kind of appearing.
Exactly.
So people are going to ask, is that a termite mound? What is that?
No.
So just keep that in mind.
I would maybe, as a thought, maybe in hindsight, if you have something like this, rather just going close on this one.
Straight, if you have the
if you have
lenses
if you have the focal length, or even to photograph this, put him even on a wide angle lens, put him on the right hand side of your frame, eliminate these guys, and then with your crop just him, because he's got quite a nice pose there. I mean, you can see
exactly
the
what
sort
that
of
the
identifiable features. So maybe something to consider from that point of view.
100%, yeah. And again, like Johan had mentioned, going nice and tight with a tight crop. With a silhouette, there isn't much detail. So obviously, the more you crop your image, the lesser the quality, and the smaller one would be able to print this image. But for a silhouette, there isn't much detail.
No.
So you don't have to worry about cropping too tight and losing detail because it is a silhouette. So if you can just go work sharpness on those
bear in mind
edges.
This is also the JPEG version. So
exactly, yes.
With your raw file, I mean that for me is a stronger image than
that whole image. Yes. And really, just by increasing sharpness a little bit, you can see quite a difference there on those edges. But on your raw file, if you crop in a silhouette file a lot tighter, let's say you can get away with a tighter crop in a silhouette image than you would on a full detailed image. For sure. But again, technically very well executed.
Love the colors and everything. Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool.
Good stuff. 10K.
Thinking about where the next gin and tonic's coming from.
Yeah, he's scanning. He needs to make some best gin and tonics in Africa, this man. Really good gin and tonics. But a great image, and you've captured a very moody image here. You can see he was just standing there and you snapped away and got a natural shot of him.
Very natural.
Very deep in thought here.
Very natural, which is cool.
And again, it looks like you've used campfire in the Boma area to capture this, and it is not an easy scene to shoot. I can see there ISO 8000, f2.8, 100th of a second at 200 mil. It's a very difficult scene to shoot in. So using that natural lit campfire, because there's basically no light. It's a very difficult scene to shoot. And looking at how you've captured Francis standing here is ideal. You've got great detail, particularly in the main area of his face, around the eyes, the nose, the mouth. So I think you've captured this extremely well. I've taken a lot of shots of these guys. I'm sure you have as well, Johan, during your time in camp. But one thing I've noticed is, yes, the campfire is a natural source of light, which is orange and golden, as we can see here, which isn't making the image look more or less attractive. And this is just a personal thing. I tend to find these portraits, particularly of our Masai around a campfire, if you just drop those oranges a little bit, I tend to see that for some reason it enhances the image. It just makes it look a little bit more natural. Yeah, something like that. Cool. And already there's a major difference because to me the orangeness is kind of like a distractive element of the image.
100%.
That's just my feel and my 2 cents worth. But I think just by dropping those oranges to something like that, there's nothing else I can fault or try and improve on this image because it's a great image.
I know what we've also been doing this year. I'm sure you did as well. Those little loom cubes.
Yeah, those lights.
And like so, one of us will hold the light for you, so you get a beautiful sort of. It's more of a whiter light, so you don't have that orange tint that Mike was talking about, and you get beautiful images of them then. So Nick, that's another excuse to get back to the Mara, and we'll get you some more images of these guys. But it is something that we've been playing around with. I think that's been giving us some pretty cool results.
Oh, definitely. And obviously the loom cubes, those lights are a lot brighter than the natural campfire would be.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to use as great ISOs of ISO 8000. But in spite of using such a high ISO, I mean, quality is quite good.
Yeah.
It looks great. And yeah, I think I can't really see too tight there. But I'm not too sure how you had processed this, Nick. But if you go into detail, and just while we're here and speaking about noise because of high ISOs, you'll see in your noise reduction, you'll have your luminance noise and your color noise. So the luminance noise is basically that graininess that you see. So it's the black and white noise, and this is what often hides in the darker areas. And notice when I take this to 100, 10K, the Barman becomes very wax-like. It looks like a wax sculpture. So you have to be very light-handed when it comes to luminance noise reduction. But color noise reduction, you often see your primary colors when you're using high ISOs such as 8000, your primary colors, your reds, your blues, your greens, you will see this popping out. And by the looks of things, I can see a little bit of color noise in him. So you can lift this and notice when I take this to 100, he doesn't become wax-like. So this is a great advantage when you're shooting high ISOs. I often put my color noise way up, and then very slight-handed on luminance. But if I touch my luminance, you have to touch your sharp.
Yes.
But I think this is an extreme for, and I know the situation when our guys are standing around the campfire. It's not easy photography.
No.
If you're using the campfire to shoot this, you've
Very
done a
good.
superb job here, Nick. You've executed this very well. This is cool.
And I think also something to remember that Mike was mentioning about the sharpening is, remember if you just sharpen here, then everything is going to get sharpened, which you don't want. So remember to mask, so you exclude your background, and you just so everything that's white gets sharpened. So whatever goes black is not being sharpened anymore, so you can see the noise in the back there. You're going to get rid of that, bring it in a bit closer, maybe something around there. And then go up with your sharpening. So then these areas here won't get more noise when you sharpen this spot. Only his face will get sharpened. So
there we go.
that's something to remember when you're shooting those high ISOs.
Very
Otherwise,
well
very
executed.
cool.
This is a great image, yeah, definitely. This is really pretty. I love the depth in this photograph.
Yeah.
One thing that did put me off as you flicked across to it is that tree on the left.
Oh,
See this big tree over here.
yeah.
So even though it's part and parcel of what the Mara is all about, but I think in cropping this a little differently, and I love that you shot landscape here.
Yeah.
Because you're not too close to the animal, and he's looking from the right to the left. But I think if you could eliminate that one element, so let's go into the crop, and let's just see and try this. Just going a bit tighter. Now just get your giraffe and that massive depth of the Masai Mara. I think
Such
that's
a cool Mara.
a little bit more appealing. Less is more.
Yeah.
The less distractions there are in the frame, the more your viewer's eyes are going to be locked onto this giraffe.
Yeah.
And this is an incredible image, a tailless giraffe. There's only one of them in the Mara, and you saw him, Nick. Jeez.
I think you also maybe, and again, this could be a screen thing, but it does feel a bit sort of orange.
Orange, yeah. It could be a screen resolution thing. Yeah.
Maybe just bring that down a bit.
Yes.
And you can see it almost gives like that blue
Hazy.
sort of a hazy.
Beautiful.
Maybe just bring the vibrance down just a touch.
Yeah, that's
Something like
power. Yeah,
just to bring it a little bit more natural.
that's it.
I think with that tree, I mean, I know it's like those Balanatis trees are those iconic
Trees of the Mara, yeah.
So if you had that and the giraffe standing next to it would have worked. But like Mike was saying,
that was a young one as well. It was lower down.
Yeah, with the giraffe, it's quite far away, and you can't see the sort of the base of it. So it's almost like
canopy. It looks like a little shrub popping up.
So it's almost like the quarter of it popping up. So you kind of want that whole tree coming out next to the giraffe, and very picky, aren't we? But that's a cool image. Such iconic Mara scene.
The depth in there is just incredible. Aperture at 7.1 ample.
The difficult thing in the Mara are these slopes.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't try and, if you're going to try and level this out, then the rest becomes skew, and it's quite a difficult thing to.
It is challenging.
To try and manage.
It is challenging, but you can see here that this guy's feet are level, boom, boom.
Yeah.
His eyes and ears are in line. Everything is perfect, and then obviously that distant horizon is very straight.
Yeah.
But I like that slant. It's showing you, and also including that tree again. You can now see that this guy's standing on an elevated area.
Yeah.
You can see that. So this is a natural slant. So it's not affecting the look of this image. I think this is an absolutely beautiful image, and this will do a beautiful monochrome shot as well.
Yeah.
With that, I actually like this monochrome.
I actually prefer monochrome as well. Yeah.
It really pops out. That giraffe explodes. But use both. They tell two very different kind of moods here. Beautiful image, Nick. Well done.
Nice. I think, is that all of them?
That's it, yeah.
That's all of them.
Good images in there, Nick.
Yeah, well Nick, thank you so much for sending those through, man. Some great images, all of the Mara. I think if you just add a few of those things that we mentioned there, it'll just take those images to the next level.
That's it.
Guys, if you would like any of your images to be featured in one of these episodes, please feel free to get in touch with Mike or myself. Our Instagram handles are down at the bottom here. Send us through 10 to 15 images, and we'll happily sort of look over them for you and send you the video.
Brilliant.
Mike, thank you so much for your time again.
And thank you for inviting me. It's always fun. And Nick, well done. Some superb images in there, and I look forward to seeing more of them out on Instagram and so in the future.
Yeah.
And out on Safari again one day soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Johan. That was great.
Go follow Nick down at the bottom here.
That's it.
All right. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And this is actually the last one of the year, last one for 2019.
There we go.
We'll do the next one probably in January.
Early next year.
Yeah.
In the new year. It's crazy how quick this year's flying. It's unbelievable.
But guys, have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and we'll catch you all in the new year. Till next time. Cheers.
Bye-bye.